there was times I wanted to take away some of the frustration, or there's times I wanted to provide the answer. And I'm like, I can't, because you kind of just have to do it yourself. And each situation's different and each author is different.
Yeah, people like it when you ask for them. It just really makes step 3 and 4 so much more meaningful and faster. I really do feel like that's the magic part of the why, even if you can't put your finger on it before you're writing or as you're writing.
Yeah.
You know, that's the why.
Hi, I'm Jim Fielding. Welcome to Ask for an Answer. Hello, kind, curious, talented human beings. It is time for another episode of Ask for an Answer with Jim Fielding. I am thrilled about my guest today on like so many levels. We were just talking in the preparation on all the different levels, but Vanessa, I'm so excited that you're here. I'm going to tell how you and I know each other, and then I'm going to let you introduce yourself and do your bio. But I'm so excited. You are my first guest who also is a person I coach. I realized that this morning. I love that. But Vanessa and I met because of books, because I met Vanessa when I was at UC Davis for my book tour for the first book, All Pride, No Ego. She got in contact with me and inquired about coaching because she was writing a book. And so I've been on this journey with her. I have her book here. It's behind her. For those of you who can't see, I'm holding up Valuable and Visible by Vanessa Errecarte. And we're going to talk about the book journey. We're going to talk about coaching. But Vanessa, welcome. I'm so excited about this episode.
I'm excited too. I love our chats, and I am excited we get to do it for another hour here. I can never get enough.
Yes, we get to share it with everybody. So this story is big. I mean, your bio is big, but tell our listeners and viewers the story of Vanessa. Like, what does Vanessa do besides write the book I just showed? But what else do you do?
Yes, and I'm awfully bad at this. This is why I am on a mission to redefining personal branding to be about the service versus the human, right? Because I think a lot of us struggle with this. But here I go. Here's my best take. So
okay, I'm ready. Here's your elevator pitch. I'm ready.
There we go. Well, the best thing that I've ever done in my career was an accident. So I had a consulting business for many years, over a decade now, and probably about 5 years into that marketing consulting business, UC Davis asked me if I'd teach digital marketing and corporate branding shortly after. And I had always done corporate training in my business, but gosh, I loved teaching students. There's something magical about being on a journey with someone who is there just to really take that next step that has those big ideas and everything. And so as I was teaching these students those 2 classes at the UC Davis MBA program, the UC Davis Graduate School of Management, I started realizing something like circa early 2020s, and then AI came along and it got even worse. But if you make it into the UC Davis Graduate School of Management, you are excellent. It is a top-tier business school. But then I felt this struggle from so many great students that they kind of feel invisible, right? It's a competitive, crowded world out there. And even when you post on LinkedIn and stuff like that, everybody's posting these credentials and the same kinds of things. And it's like, now I'm just invisible somewhere else, right? And so I knew there had to be another way. And I knew that if you can, like when you are a consultant, you actually treat yourself like a mini company. And you take the most effective things of corporate branding and digital marketing, you put them together and you use them for your own company, right? And so I started asking myself, I started helping a few students on the side that were kind of looking for jobs, right? Put this kind of system together for themselves. Like, why not? Why not, put yourself out there like you are that thought leader sooner? And then one of the students actually said, you should make this a class. And so I became intrigued by that idea and gave it a try. So that's where it all started. And I think that with this changing economy, I don't think AI is taking jobs. I think AI is shrinking them. And so now I think to be more nimble, becoming kind of that mini consultant, mini CEO sooner might be the new norm. Like, how it's like we used to go out and find the full-time job, and the person that said, I'm going to go be a consultant or entrepreneur, that was the rare person, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, is it going to be flipped? I think maybe. I don't know.
Well, so the full title of the book, Valuable and Visible, the subtitle is Redefining Personal Branding by Leading with Impact over Image. And I'm not just saying this to my listeners and viewers. It's a great read because I think it is so timely, to your point, in that managing your personal brand, your narrative, your visibility, to your point, I think it's so great for students to learn, undergrad and graduate students, because we are visible 24/7. People can track us 24/7. And it's not just like, don't post that stuff on your Instagram because it's going to come back to bite you. It's literally, what is your brand? And your book has a lot of wisdom in it and practical things like do this, like, and guiding people through, like, what is your brand? Like, what makes you unique? What makes you different? What makes you exciting? And I love what you just said, that AI is shrinking jobs. It's not eliminating jobs. It's shrinking jobs. It's changing jobs for sure. So you're teaching the class and all that kind of stuff. I know the answer to this, but when did you say, okay, now it's time to write the book? I know this, but when in that journey did you say, oh, now it's a book?
Yeah. So a couple of my students said, you need to make this a book. This really helped me. This changed my life. You need to make this a book. And there were two people that really said that to me. And when people say that, it was this interesting calling, because, like I said, I loved being part of these people's journeys. I felt so honored by it, and so for them to say that, I took it seriously. I didn't want to take it seriously. That's a big thing to write a book, right? But I kept thinking about it, and I did keep thinking about this core belief I have that we look at personal branding all wrong. And then I started thinking about, like, how it's not even just a student problem, although undergrads and grad students, like, they really do need to be concerned about this, obviously. But we just saw this last month in the New York Times when they wrote that John Turnus is being considered as the new CEO of Apple. And do you remember that sentence they wrote where it said, like, the question for Apple is something like, do they want now another deft manager or an innovator?
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting sentence, because, first of all, deft manager, like, it doesn't sound like a great term, but actually those are great managers, right? They lead people well, they make money well. But then, like, he's an innovator too if he's around 50 years old and being considered as CEO of Apple, right? Or the next CEO. But no one ever tells people that there comes a time in a career, and now with AI earlier than ever, because AI does wipe out some of that entry-level function and shrinks that job, right? Which means people advance sooner to this moment where you're so good at what you do that your skills and your excellence get you the promotions. Like, you have maybe a little more excellence than everyone else, you keep getting your promotions, right? And then all of a sudden you're in this leadership hot seat, and it's not about your skills anymore.
Yeah.
It's about your ideas. It's about how you convey your different points of view.
Yes.
And, we think that some people are just lucky that they're distinctive and that they have those different points of views. And I'm just looking at frameworks that we use for corporate brands, and I'm just like, we make them distinct. We manufacture them, and there's no reason the human can't do that as well. And the human has an advantage. Like, we don't even need to have a bunny selling batteries because we're already human. So that's cool.
No, I think it's great. Well, and I think so much of what you write about and what we talk about is like, and I think that, like, deft management, I agree with you, but it's like you're managing your narrative, right? You're managing, it's funny, like, the era of publicists and PR, you and I have spent a lot of time talking about it, right? And I, having worked in Hollywood and media and retail for so long, I worked in the era of a publicist, like the power publicist, controlling access and controlling the narrative and controlling, particularly stars' stories. And that's kind of over now because like of the 24/7 news cycle and Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn and everything else. And again, a lot of people hire people to help them with this, but you have to control your own narrative basically. And you have to tell your story. So I want to go back to your story a little bit before we get into the book journey, because marketing agency owner, consultant, author, but also wife, mother. I mean, you have a lot of identifiers, right? So mom of two, wife of a husband with a big job. We don't have to say what his job is, but it's a big job. And you're always juggling multiple priorities. I know this about you now. But you're a good juggler. I would call you a good juggler. You're a good juggler. Yeah.
Am I? I pick up the balls quick when I drop them.
You do. You're self-aware. That's one of the things I like about you. But you have lots, I mean, in your own brand, you have lots of adjectives, right? You have lots of definers. You have a lot of different definitions, which I think is fair. And you're active in your community too. Like I think that's not only the university community, but just the community at large. I mean, you're really active in the community as well. So, okay, you decide to write the book. I remember this so well. And again, we celebrate. A lot of times when we're coaching, I talk about celebrating because not only did you write a book, you got a publisher to publish your book, which ironically is the same publisher I had, which I'm just telling everybody listening and reading, I had nothing to do with. So please, or listening, watching, reading, please do not call me. I had nothing to do with it happening. But
I actually did not even realize it was the same publisher until I went to ask you, would you be my coach? And I'm like, oh, wow, we both have the same publisher. Interesting.
Not only the same publisher, we have the same editor. Like we have, I mean, it's so funny. I mean, ironic funny.
Yeah.
But
the universe wanted us to collide.
The universe wanted us to be together. So you called me, we started coaching, but I think it's probably good to share with our listeners and viewers, like, why did you think you needed coaching? Like, I think that's probably good. Like, what made you think I should get a coach? Because I don't know if everybody knows that thought process.
All right. Well, I will be 100% honest.
Yeah.
I had never had a client in publishing, and it was a brand new industry to me. And I immediately recognized so many differences between many industries in the publishing industry, especially like trade books, especially like, you like there's journals and there's like pitching to the media and that kind of earned media publicity, which I'm very familiar with. But the actual act of like, publishing a book and all these different steps that have these different functions that are actually quite novel to one another, right? Like it's a very interesting industry. And so I at first thought, can we have like a different kind of coaching relationship where you just like mentor me entirely about what's coming up with the publishing industry because you've been in my shoes and I just kind of need that human to talk to about it. And then you started doing things like, asking me the things that make me cringe and I like to ignore, like, are you spending time for you? And how are you going to balance this, that, and the other? And when you want to prioritize like the functions you do every day, like how do you do that? And then, I took a strengths finder and all these different things. And this thing I never actually really believed in, this like business coach or whatever. I'm like, geez, he's making me better. He's making me stronger because you really honed in on the thing that I struggle with a lot and that actually takes a lot of time and oxygen away. And you taught me not how to be different. I don't feel different. Like I feel still like Vanessa, but you taught me how to manage that part and recognize that part of myself better. So like I struggle with if I have bad news to deliver, or if I need to make a pivot, like I don't want to let anybody down.
Yeah.
But in that process of not wanting to let anybody down, I can let myself down because I try so hard to, try to fix things where they're failing by making up for it and still like keeping that person, or helping to boost that person that is having that hard time. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's okay to coach someone really well or really point out the positive and then say, and now I'm taking this next step forward, and you've really made me less afraid of that. And then it gains you like more time and space. And so I guess one thing I never knew, at 44 years old, and this is, putting this on blast for everyone because I think it's so important, is that, you can be both. You can still be yourself, but you can also make changes. And I don't know, that's like a very unique thing because I think so, like, coaching, it's like you've always said, I'm not a therapist, I'm a coach. Although, like, there's like, oh,
There's
you
moments I
share a lot.
therapize. Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes, like, when you think of like that, like traditional therapy situation, it's always like, well, what changes are you making?
Hmm.
And I feel like with coaching, it's almost like what edits are you making so that the final document is stronger and comes together sooner.
I love that. I mean, well, first off, I mean, I love our coaching relationship because first off, you came to coaching. It's interesting. You came with maybe a little bit different goal, but you came with an open mind and you came with a growth mindset. And that's something that is so important. That goes back to your self awareness. Like, I remember our first session, you were just very, very self aware. I mean, the strength finders, all that kind of stuff. Like, you were definitely self aware. I think most of what we've talked about, and you've touched on it, is because you do have so many responsibilities and you do have so many roles. You are a pleaser, which is a good thing. You are a caretaker and a pleaser. And if anything, I feel like a lot of times when we're coaching, I'm like, you need to be more selfish. You need to be more selfish. This,
Mhm.
and I remember we talked about as you were writing the book and getting ready to turn in that first draft. And I'm like, writing a book is one of the most selfish things you're ever going to do. It just truly is. I mean,
Mhm.
and you and I have talked about this. I don't think selfish is a bad word. I even wrote it in my own book. I think selfish is self care. Selfish is not a bad word. But I also told you I was always careful because I could cross over and I'm not a trained therapist, but I
Mhm.
also am not a mom of two kids, right? And I was like, okay, when I did this, and I would caveat all the time. Remember, I don't have the two kids. I don't have to go to school council, school performances or
Yeah.
school, parent teacher conferences and all that. Like, I was able to be even more selfish than I was encouraging you to be because I didn't have those other responsibilities. But the thing about you were like a sponge and you are like a sponge and you just were like, okay, I'm going to try. I'm going to try. And I mean, it's just been fascinating to watch. It's been an honor to watch you go through it. And then to have the book come out and do so well, it's doing well, which is great. And some of the events you've done have been so amazing. I think it's been fun to watch. But
Oh,
because
thank
there's
you.
a lot of things as a coach, we can only prepare you for so much. I mean,
Mhm.
you still, part of it, you have to get through lived experiences and like hard earned wisdom. Like, we can't, there was times I wanted to take away some of the frustration, or there's times I wanted to provide the answer. And I'm like, I can't, because you kind of just have to do it yourself. And each situation is different and each author is different.
Yeah.
But I think some of your learnings and experiences are really universal. So that was one of the questions I had for you. So at
Well,
this
and one thing you said to me too
yeah,
that I
yeah,
also will highlight because
yeah,
it was such a good it was a good reminder because we inherently know this and we say it to other people.
yeah.
And you said this to me too. You said, I know you say this to other people, but people like it when you ask for them. People like it when you, and and my husband's someone I asked a lot of, right? Um, and uh, and he had that feedback, right? Like, like I like helping. I like,
Yeah.
being needed in a way, that that you don't maybe even usually feel needed, right?
Yeah.
Like there were
Yeah.
times where it was like, please make sure today you can be Mr. Mom and show up at the school at this time,
At the
right?
practice, all
Because
that stuff.
my
Yeah.
flexibility,
Yeah. I mean,
may not be
you and
there.
I suffered from the same thing. I mean, that was the thing, as I felt so many similarities with you, is that we both knew how to do this for clients. Like, I still think that's both of our biggest learnings. Like, people
Mm-hmm.
hired us. I did it in corporate, you did it through your agency and consulting, and people would hire us. Like, if we were doing someone else's book launch, we'd be really good at it. When all of a sudden you have to write your own and do your own, and it's back to your book, it's like managing your personal brand. We're not as good at it. And I think that's great that you were self-aware enough to ask for help, because yes, I was about 2.5 years ahead of you. So I was about 2.5 years on the journey. And I was so grateful to have that, because I do want, again, a coach doesn't tell you exactly what to do, but if we can help you avoid mistakes or missteps or inconsistencies, of course, we're going to try and help you get there and avoid that. And I think most of our conversations have been like, okay, and we both have said it. We did it in corporate. We did it for our clients. Now I have to do it for myself. So
Mm-hmm.
how long has the book been out now? The book's been out.
Let's see, June 10th. So May
Yeah.
5th. It's
A
36
little
days
over a
old.
month. Yeah. I mean, a little
36
over a
days
month.
old in the world.
Yeah. I mean, a little over a month. It's a month old. You're old news now.
Yeah.
But, what I know there's been so many, like, I don't know how to distill this down, but like, what are your 2 or 3 biggest learnings initially? Because you're now 36-ish days into being a published author. Like, that's the change that happened the day of publishing. Before, you were to be published and you were getting ready to be published. Now it's out in the world. But like, what's been your biggest learnings, 1 or 2, 3 learnings in these first 36 days?
Yeah. Okay. First learning is that the result of the book is really about the impact. So I think there's a lot of ways in 2026 to get information out there. A book is a unique package because
Yep.
a book gets something out there all at once. Like, I've had online courses before that I've sold like on the market, right? And there's some people that take them and they consume them and they really benefit from them. A lot of people, it's like it almost feels like a very detached thing because they consume it in their own kind of asynchronized way, and you don't really see or feel the impact that the information is having on the human, And I think that's why, like for me, when I'm in-person training in a corporation or teaching my students at the university, like it's just that's where I feel so just alive. And so a book is like a less expensive way than that course or whatever online to kind of get this body of information out to people. So the first moment was just having a stranger tell me what the book meant to that person. Because this person was struggling with, she knew she needed a personal brand because, it's not optional in 2026 as professionals, right? With this crowded online world that we spoke about, an in-person world. But like most of us, she's like, I don't know that I want to go out there and constantly say, like, here's all my accomplishments, here's who I am. Like, we teach the elevator pitch a lot, right? We've taught it since like the beginning of business time. But geez, Jim, like if you're in the elevator with someone that's like for 30 seconds trying to let you know how they are so optimized and special, like you're hitting the door open button a little freaked out, right? But if they're talking about something outside of that, something like, man, I'm so passionate about product management because, when I look at R&D, steps 1 through 4, they're great, but step 2 is wrong. And I do step 2 this way. And it just really makes step 3 and 4 so much more meaningful and faster. And I want to devote my career to that. All of a sudden now, someone's just like, wait, let me follow you. What's your name again? And they're naturally looking for your credentials. And so this woman said to me, I didn't realize that by really finding my own novel and counterintuitive point of view and then teaching people about my different ways, I didn't realize how powerful that could be and how much safer it felt, because then she's talking about that thing that she's teaching to other people. So she
Yeah.
feels like a helper versus putting herself on blast. And it's like one removed. I always say, like, you can either sing in front of a microphone or you can play an instrument, right? The instrument, it gives you that layer of protection, right? And so we don't feel quite as on the spot, in that situation, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it helps people launch. But also then I said to her, but oh my gosh, like, the thing she said she wants to help people with is how to be young with a chronic health condition, because it's really hard to manage the health and healthcare system for any human. But a lot of times we deal with chronic conditions and serious conditions as we get older, and we're more established financially, and we've just been in the world longer trying to navigate these things. And she at an early age had to learn all of this. And I'm like, what a gift, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's like, that was a moment, because I'm just like, wow, the students I have, and a lot are in the book as examples and case studies, that get some of these ideas and put brands together, like they help the world. It's like this cool little double win-win, right?
Yeah.
It's a win-win. It's not a double win-win. Win-win. But it's a win-win in that they're helping people and they're feeling safer to step out. Those are the voices I want to hear on the internet. I think we can fix the internet. So that's one thing along the journey. Another thing along the journey this month is how busy, you warned me about this, but like actually getting nonfiction's interesting, especially first time author. Like, I'm not going to step out there with the same audience as like Mel Robbins and just sell a book.
No.
It's like you build it, they won't come. So getting the book out to the world and writing the book was actually the easiest, most fun part of this, because it was in my mind, body, and soul. I had already done the proposal, the outline to get the publisher, right? It was like 5 weeks I wrote the book. It was a passion, period of 5 weeks. But then, of course, there's editing and all that. I'm not saying it was like easy peasy, whatever, but yeah,
you had done a lot. You had done a lot of the legwork. Because it was so you. I mean, the book is so you, and you had done an online course, and you had done, the university course and stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, I told you, and I tell everybody that wants to write a book, I'm like, writing the book is the easy part. Getting a book published is a whole nother thing, right? And deciding what type of publishing to do, hybrid, traditional publisher, self-publishing. But then welcome to the reality of now you got to market the book, and you've got to, and I'm even blunter, you and I talk, but you got to pimp the book. Like you've got to, and I know one of the other things I've said to you over and over again, but I think it's good for all of our listeners and viewers, is it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? It is. And I'm again, about 2.5 years ahead of you. So, I've been doing it for 2.5 years of like, keeping the book in front of people and talking about the book and doing speaking gigs about the book and around the book and the whole bit. And, but to your point, the thing is, once that book's out there in the world, it is a body of work that lasts forever. Like it's not, of course, it sells initially pretty well, and you've done pre-sales and all that kind of stuff. The sales ebb and flow, but it exists forever. And I still, 2.5 years in, will get a DM from somebody on LinkedIn that said, I just read your book and I loved it, or I just listened to your book and I loved it. And I'll think, my God, I've been trying to get you to do that for 2.5 years, right? Yeah. It's,
but and isn't that exhilarating? Because I do feel like if you choose a book, you are choosing like access, right? Because there's ways to make money with your knowledge that are much more lucrative than a book, right?
Yeah. And easier.
So that's the part that's the magic. I really do feel like that's the magic part of the why, even if you can't put your finger on it before you're writing or as you're writing.
Yeah.
That's the why.
No, for sure. And you have to, as we've talked about, you have to hold on to those moments, like those moments of, it's adrenaline, like those moments of affirmation, those moments of acknowledgement, even though like I'm constantly coaching and writing about don't seek external validation. It is external validation and it feels really good, but it's
Yeah.
fleeting and you need to hold on to it because then the next day you might need that feeling again and it might not be there. And I think that's been the fascinating thing for me is, waking up to that unexpected DM or that unexpected email or somebody contacting you through a website or whatever. Um, those surprises
Yeah.
are unbelievable. And you have to just kind of bank them, because they carry you through the more quiet days or the more quiet periods, for sure. So how has the family reaction been? We haven't really talked about this, like the kids and the husband and everything, like,
Mhm.
because you've been busy.
Shall I show you what happened in my office? Have I
Yeah.
showed you this?
Oh,
Like my
that's right.
kids, who did
Oh
their
yeah,
desk.
they moved. That's right. The kids moved in your office. We talked about. I love that.
Yeah,
Oh,
and so this
come
was something that was so important, especially like I have a 9-year-old son, and he's almost 10, and then an almost 12-year-old summer birthday daughter. And my son's just he's very happy in like proximity and stuff. And so,
on.
he moved his desk and I love that so much,
Yeah. And he just did
Um,
it, right? He didn't tell you. He just did it, right?
yeah, one day he just moved it. And I'm like, wow,
I
that
love that
looks
story. I love that.
really not great, but beautiful. Like, look at what this is like packing tape on the wall, too. Can you see this?
Yeah,
He's
no,
drawing
totally.
his
Yeah, for
sports.
listeners that are listening and not viewing,
Mhm.
her son literally dragged his desk in, and then the daughter did too. And then what she just showed is like his drawings of like sports logos and stuff that he's now hanging in mom's office. What I love is mom's office is now family office. I love that.
Yeah.
I
So
love
that is great. I mean, that is one of the best memories of this because I think it's going
Yeah.
to stick. I think they like it better, all being together because I've always had evening work to do. It's not like I've ever been done after they've gotten off of school, but now it's kind of like a way to be together because as they get older, they have more evening work to do too. And
Mhm.
then my husband, like he has flexibility that he can be home in the evening, but he'll also need to get on his computer. So that's been a fun surprise adjustment led by
Yeah.
Jack, the snuggler. Jack's our snuggler. He always needs to be like on your person or by your person. And I hope that never goes away. And then Ella, it's interesting because she is embarking on that preteen phase. So at about the same time as I'm, writing and launching this book, she has requested more independence, right? And making some of her
Mm.
own plans with, friends and what she wants to do, which like I think maybe in a way it was a little easier for me, the mom, because that transition happens fast from the child to the preteen, right? I never knew how fast. And you told me that your sister's kids, same way, um,
Yeah.
and so I think as a mom, it softened that blow a little of like, they don't need me all the time anymore, because I had my own level of busyness going on. And so, that part was, I think, it's interesting. We both had a growth year in different ways. And one thing that I'm trying to get better at is the guilt, because at one point I was, there's a few times Jack has said, I never want you to write a book again. And I think, and what he means is he doesn't want me to be this busy again, right?
Right.
Obviously. And he said it like just recently because I flew to DC and back 2 days in a row and I didn't do I just flew back to do 2 news spots. I was on the ground for maybe like, I don't know, 8 hours. And then
Hmm.
I purposely, like I took red eyes. I'm like, I was only gone from his life for 2 days. But of course, like he didn't want me to go. He's in a very mom phase right now, which is great. I love the snuggles and stuff, but
Yeah.
so there's the guilt, right? But then today, just today, it was so cute. And this is where you have to start like watching for the signals beyond what's in your own brain. Like you always tell me, that's how we internalize things is we like take all these external signals and then
Mm.
we put them inside, we line them up and like a business woman or man would, we say like, here's what it all means. So shut up, here's the data, right? So today I got some data. So Jack has a book swap. It's his second to last day of school. So he's supposed to bring like books to swap and like for the library. And he brought like his Alien Next Door series. And then he said, "Can I have one of your books?"
Oh, I love that.
So there's
See,
that signal,
I mean,
you
yeah,
know?
it's like, yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, hold on to that one. Like, that's the stuff you want to like bottle, right? And like keep it like perfume on your desk and spray it on you when you're having a bad moment. I mean, that's incredible. And I told you, again, I'm not a parent, so I don't really coach on parenting, but I'm godparent and uncle and all that kind of stuff. And it's I think you're actually being an incredible role model for them, like especially for your daughter of like we've talked a lot about it. I'm not a you can have it all person. I'm not that. Like we've talked a lot about what are you going to say no to like in order to do this other stuff because you have to. I mean there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much energy in the tank and even though you have an incredible energy level, it's draining what we do. I mean, it's draining to be all the things that we have to be. And like you have that extra layer of being the mom too. Um, and but that was a phrase we used to say it all the time when we were managing brands at Disney and DreamWorks. It's like it's more important what you say no to than what you say yes to. I had to then apply that same learning and that same philosophy to my own life because some things you just have to say no to. You can't do it all. You can't. And if you need to go to DC to do some news bits, you're going to miss some stuff. And, you know, if you're doing podcasts like this, then that's an hour out of your day. Like you learn that, but
there's also an opportunity though to give other gifts too, you know, because one thing I forgot to mention is Ella didn't actually realize she opens my book until recently. She actually sat down to read it like a couple weeks ago, and I kept telling her like, "You open my book," because you know, for people who don't know me as well as Jim, like she had a health condition that could have been life threatening when she was 3. And I opened the book writing about how I had always forced myself to like not be the mom professionally. We're all taught that like business is like business, personal is personal. Yeah. And now the world has congealed and Gen Z understands this and has always been digital natives. And with social media, like they know that the personal and business is impossible to separate, but we are still stubborn, millennials and up, sitting there saying, no, we can still separate it. And I had this moment, when, she was diagnosed with this issue that I kind of put people on blast for the first time. I even, when I didn't take a maternity leave with Jack, like a year prior, I went back to work on a meeting on day 5. And that client I told you asked me, "Do you even like your son?" Because every time he asked me a question, I just kept saying, "Let's get to the agenda. Let's get to the agenda."
Yeah.
And I'm like, gosh, yes, I love my son. It's just that, I don't want you to think that it's going to take away from this, right?
Super.
And so, that was an interesting gift too, speaking of kids and time and everything, because I don't know if like Ella actually broke something in me that has benefited my entire life and has shown to me, and I prove it to my students all the time by saying, here's this vulnerable bit. And now all of a sudden, if I open class telling you this story, you feel like you can be more vulnerable with me. And so now the brands that you are creating, you're going to figure out what to teach people about. Like this woman that I told you that said she has this chronic health condition, wants to teach people about it younger. You now have proof. You like me better, you relate to me more because now I told you that story. When I walked in this room, I was your teacher.
Now you're human. Now you're human. Yeah.
Now I'm a fellow human on a journey. And think about in business, when someone can be a little more vulnerable with you, how much quicker you get to the real problem as a consultant.
Yeah.
But yet we try to strip all that away all the time.
Right. Yeah. You build trust faster. And I think the other thing that Ella's situation, we talked about it, taught you, it taught you things about your relationship with your husband. It taught you also that you're not in control of everything because you're very good at control. You would not be where you are if you weren't I'm not saying you're a
It is
control
my
freak.
favorite thing to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I hate when it's not on the menu, Jim.
Exactly. But you learned, okay, now we have this situation and I'm not in control, but I'm going to learn about it. I think it's so funny because with my book, my husband, I knew he hadn't
Are
read
you
the
going
book.
to tell me to control the controllable again?
My husband had not read the book, and I knew what he had done. He had done what a lot of people do. They take the book and they look in the index for their name, and like they read the pages, right? And his hospital group that he was in chose, not because of him, but partially because of him, chose my book as book club. And I said to him, I'll host a book club meeting like at the house if you want to, right? Like I'll sign books for people and stuff. And that was the way I got him to read the book. Like I had to shame him into reading the book because he's like, well, I'll listen to the book. I mean, no, I want you to read the book. And he was so surprised, like where he popped up in the book. Cause I said, if you don't, when book club comes to the house, I'm going to embarrass you in front of your work group because I'm going to ask you questions about specific chapters or specific moments within the book. But it's just so funny. But it was funny because his sister read the book and his parents read the book. Like they knew more about the book than he did. But he's like, well, I've lived the book. And I'm like, no, you haven't lived the book. You've lived me creating it. And you
That's
feel
such
like
a husband right there.
it is. It's like, oh, I've
Yeah.
lived the book. I don't need to. I'm like, no, you need to read it. Like, you need to read it. But
Jay actually said a few things to me from the book when I was least suspecting it. I'm like, oh gosh, you did read chapter.
Yeah, when they use it back on you. Yeah. He'll use control the controllable on me a lot. When I get in my control freak mode, he'll be like, lesson 1. I'm like, oh God, okay.
Yeah, your book would be like that. See, he didn't run into that with my book because it's like, yeah, ooh, Jim.
No, I have lessons that can be weaponized.
You do have lessons that can be weaponized.
I have lessons that can be weaponized, but it's all right. It's okay. We're not perfect. We're imperfect creatures. So
and we convert more as imperfect people. That's what I tell people.
Yes.
When I encourage them to go face to camera, that's a big thing that we try to just do. Little face to camera. It's amazing if you just turn your cell phone into selfie mode. And it's like, oh, this isn't so scary when you go to like teach someone about something, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, you and I are very similar in that we're very curious and we both like to learn. And that's the thing for me is like, I never want to be done. Like I don't want to be done. I want to constantly be learning something new all the time. And, there's times I've wanted my own book journey to be easier and I've wanted to make other people's book journeys easier. But then I realized, nope, you had to learn that. And, I mean, again, being farther ahead in this game than you are, like I could now write the book proverbial on what not to do again, and now that I'm getting ready to do my second book, I'm leaning into what we've worked on with your book. I'm leaning into what I've learned from my own first book to say, okay, what am I going to do differently this time with the second book? And I never thought there would be a second book. When I got the first book out, I thought, oh, okay, that's it. Like, and now I'm writing a second book and have ideas for a third book. And
isn't that funny when someone asks me like the first time, would you ever do this again? I'm like, no, I put everything into this book and I'm like, I'm done. This is like, done. And
I don't think you
then
are.
lately though, it's like a new ideas pop into your head and it's like, well, now that I know what I know,
exactly. Well, that's what started happening to me, Vanessa. I mean, we'll do this is perfect coaching of like, the notes function on my phone. I told you this, like I will just write myself notes. I literally have one in my, my personal notes. It's like book ideas. Like, and I'll literally either dictate it, I'll voice memo it. If I'm like driving, I'll voice memo, or I'll literally just type and it comes to you at random times where you're like, oh, that's an interesting idea. Or, oh, I wonder if there's a book in there. And if there's not a book, sometimes it's an article or sometimes it's a LinkedIn post. Sometimes
I say that to people like who are hesitant, which is like what I hope my gift is in this book, because sometimes the most hesitant people have the most to say. But, do you reframe hesitancy as And in this way, I use it as kind of a jolting word. You don't use it as a jolting word when you use it, to be very clear. But it's like, is it selfish to hold back?
Right.
You
No,
know, like there is someone that needs your unique point of view and your knowledge, you
Mhm.
know.
No, for
Um,
sure. And
I mean,
we,
look at this, Jim.
yeah.
Like, I have grown so much with you, but I would have never known about you.
No, totally. I mean, that's the same. I mean, well, I'm such a firm believer in things happening for a reason and fate too. Like,
Mhm.
this higher power that's moving us around. And yeah, I mean, if somebody at UC Davis hadn't, Joe,
Yeah.
I mean, if he hadn't found the
Yeah.
book and asked me to come and, done that event and, all of that,
Yeah. I just had coffee with Joe yesterday. Hi,
yeah, I
Joe. We
mean,
were talking
hey,
about you.
Joe, you're on the podcast now. I mean,
Mhm.
it literally, like, that's the thing. And, and I did this. The reason I know there's more books in you is also the age you are. Like you started this journey in your 40s. I started this journey in my middle 50s, right? My second book is going to come out in my early 60s. If I do the third book, I'll be like in my middle 60s by that point. And so I know there's more in there because I also know how fast the world is changing and AI and we've mentioned it a couple times in here, but like the technological impacts and AI impacts, particularly in the world that you move in. I mean, the marketing world and the communications world and that stuff. It's real. And I do think that you will have very practical and relatable guides and suggestions for people as who
You
are
want to hear
trying to
something
navigate.
funny? You
That's
want
the
to hear
next
something
book.
interesting and funny about this changing world?
Yeah.
I've been so fascinated by it lately because I think we get afraid of this AI world and we're
Yeah.
all confused. And I've been training an agent, so a content agent. Have I told you about this yet? Did I?
No,
Okay.
no, I love this.
So anyone can create an agent by
Mhm.
saying to Claude, ChatGPT, or both. I'm testing both.
Yeah.
Um, how, just start with the question, how do I make you into my agent? And then it walks you
Mm.
through the steps and you make it rules. I have like 43 pages of rules now. And you walk it through, you say, and not 43 pages of rules, 43 pages of rules and content. So then you get
Yeah,
past
yeah.
content. And if you want to train it for how you write emails, you get past emails. If you are a content creator like you and you want to train it, for making like thought leadership posts, which is like in personal branding, I encourage the weekly thought leadership posts,
Mhm.
etc. You put your past posts in there. And so I put past posts in there and then I made it rules. And the rules were, one of the key rules is if you want to create something new, use only my ideas and my voice. Okay. That's when things started going really weird. Like I would just get things regurgitated back to me. So if I would say, here's step one and step two, create step three, what would happen is this. If you said step one is one plus one is two, and step two is two plus two is four, and then step three is three plus three is six, right?
Yeah.
That's what you might say as a human. I know it's like an abstract thinking exercise, but this is what the machine would now say to you. If you say, here's step one, step two, create step three, here's what the machine would do. It's going to go, if it can't go out and find anything else, right? And
Mhm.
you're giving it all your past stuff, but you're asking it to create something new, but you're giving it your past stuff, right?
Yeah.
So now but you think it can take your reasoning and do it. Here's what it'll do. It'll go, one plus one is two, two plus two is four, four minus two is two. It finds a way to regurgitate something from the past, right? And then so the interesting thing is that inductive or deductive reasoning that AI just can't do. And it's like Silicon Valley doesn't sit on their heels, right? So if they could make it do it, they would. But that's where some of this, like using AI as a thinking tool, comes in,
Yeah.
right? Because then you realize, okay, I need to give this agent, the idea, and then I need to give it like reference points, and so
Mhm.
it's just a very interesting like
It's a
thing of
tool. It's
how
a
you need to function.
tool. Yeah.
Yes. And so I just think humans are always going to be so valuable. And what I take people through when I teach
Mhm.
them how to be thought leaders is, hey, what's the thing everybody thinks about this? What is the real problem that you see, and how is your approach different? We could do this for
Yeah.
days on end, and you could even ask AI to give you 20 to 40 ideas as a
Mhm.
thinking partner, right? But I just, this agent thing, like you said, like, is there, another book, this and that? One thing this agent thing has taught me, and we'll see what the future brings, but it's like, yeah, our brains are so valuable. Our
Oh,
brains are
yeah,
so
yeah.
valuable. And AI is trained on things humans have created, nothing else.
Well, that's the thing. And I mean, it's so funny because I'm in the first draft stage of the second book. Like I have a due
Yeah.
date coming up, and I literally just added a chapter. I'm working on a chapter that
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of this topic. It's like AI and human interplay, right? Because so
Mm-hmm.
much of my
Oh,
writing
I
is
love that.
so much of my writing is definitely about human and kindness and
Yes.
authenticity and all that. But now I'm kind of talking about it in the age of AI. For me, for how I work, it's not a whole book. For you, it could be. But for me, I was like, I can't put a book out in 2027 and not address it because it's almost like it's the elephant in the room that everybody's talking about. And I literally was just working on it yesterday, and it's even about like owning the tools because it has made me more efficient in some ways, like my calendar tools, like
Yeah.
how you booked this podcast recording. I mean, that's an
Yeah.
AI tool, um, and I think especially when you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, whatever we are, like you need tools that are going to make you more efficient. Because if I have tools that make me more efficient, then it's my first lesson: control the controllable, but leave space for the possible. Then I open up my mind to truly thinking about other things, like thinking about, well, what else could I be working on, or what else should I be writing about? I mean, I
Yes.
I truly truly believe that. So I think, of course, you should be looking at this space because it's all anybody's talking about. And I've been writing a lot that, like AI gets blamed for a lot of stuff, but in a weird way, I think CEOs and other people who are making org structure changes are using AI as the villain when it's really just they're fixing structural inefficiencies in their business. It's not that AI is forcing the layoffs. The AI maybe opened their eyes in a new way or something.
Yeah. I mean, on the flip side, I just heard a CEO say, I'm hiring more than ever before because of all the efficiency it is creating. I want to do more
Totally.
than I've ever done.
Totally. And I think to your point, even though the machine learning will get smarter and smarter and Silicon Valley and all these things, I'm just in the camp, it can't replace humans. Like, and maybe I should say in my lifetime, I don't know. I mean, but
Well,
I'm sure somebody,
not to be too geeky, but
yeah,
you know how people have studied, like, how do we make, like, there's some
yeah,
reptiles, like, there's some reptiles that just aren't empathetic and that eat each
yeah.
other, right? Like, we can't train those reptiles to be empathetic. Like, empathy is that hard thing to teach. Like, we can teach thought leadership, going back to the
No, we
topic
can,
of the book,
we can
but
teach,
that's
right?
a hard thing to teach. It's like an
It is.
innate human thing.
It is the kindness, the empathy, compassion for sure. All right. Well, we're coming to the end, but I always have one question at the end. What do you do when you feel like an imposter in this busy and crazy world? That's a big one to end on.
Right. And but the answer, I think, is simple. And this is what I tell people, because I ask people in my book to put their ideas out there. And we go through exercises to make the idea an idea that has never been said before, right? Like, I say to people, everyone thinks personal branding is about you, everyone is wrong. And then I talk about how it's about the ideas and what you're helping people with, right? That becomes memorable. So when you go to do that, you have turned yourself into a pioneer, right? You're saying something no one's ever said before. I grew up playing
Yep.
the Oregon Trail. A lot of my oxen died because I was going to areas that pioneers had never gone to. And I
Right.
would put always too much in my buggy or whatever. So anyway, it's scary to be a pioneer.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes imposter syndrome, it always happens because we're growing and doing new things. And I think we need to look at it as a signal so that we don't hold back anymore, because, and I think your audience is very similar to mine in certain traits, in
Mm-hmm.
that, humble, kind, like maybe self-doubtful,
Yep.
and that's why the internet is what it is. Like the biggest, loudest voices, like that's not the majority,
Mm-mm.
like only 1% of people post regularly.
Yeah.
10% of users make up all posts. That means
Yeah.
90% of people are lurking and waiting and brilliant.
Hmm. For sure. That's amazing. What a great way to end. Well, thank you so much. Everybody, listeners, viewers, buy Valuable and Visible right here. Look, it's everywhere where books are sold. There'll be a
And
link.
if you haven't gotten Jim's paperback, like
Oh, yeah,
these two,
look, they got
I
the
already know
paperback
the gifts.
too.
These are graduation gifts that I'm
They
giving
are
to two
graduation gifts.
people
It looks
graduating on
beautiful.
Friday.
If you could, those of you who are watching, it looks beautiful. If you're listening, her background is beautiful. Thank you so much. You know how much I value our relationship. I love watching you on this journey. It's been unbelievable. Congratulations. The book is great. It's doing great. I know the pressure you put on yourself, but it's doing great. And just keep going. I told you, marathon, not a sprint. Marathon.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for
All
all
right.
you've done for me.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks for spending this time with us on Ask for an Answer. If this conversation sparks something for you, don't just nod and move on. Take one idea, one question, one uncomfortable and bring it into your next meeting, your next one-on-one, or your next big decision. That's how this becomes a practice, not just a podcast. If you're leading a team, a classroom, a company, or just your own next chapter, you don't have to have it all figured out. You do have to be willing to listen, to ask better questions, and to create the kind of safety where people will actually tell you what they see. If this episode was useful, share it with someone who's in the arena with you. And if you want more tools, stories, and real talk leadership moments, make sure you follow the show and leave a review so others can find us. I'm Jim Fielding. Thank you for being here, for leading with less armor and more intention. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep asking for an answer.